a disease about which we knew almost nothing, which has no cure and only sows death, as if helped by some invisible hand. This could describe the moment when the world faced the coronavirus, but the same words could be used for what happened 500 years ago. Even then, the world was in equal trouble because of the plague that was raging mercilessly. At that gloomy time, some of the brightest examples of European art were created. Masterpieces of fine art, such as those by Rembrandt, Titian, or Caravaggio, can serve as a kind of consolation and help us see everything in a different light. We present you with a few examples of painters who have walked this world before us and visionarily embodied difficult moments on their canvases. Albrecht Dürer, The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse of 1498. Death and her three helpers ride recklessly, crumbling their hooves, his horses all before and below him. This is Dürer's vision of the Book of Revelation, which shows the three greatest threats to humanity: war, famine, and plague. A rider who has an arrow is a symbol of the plague. His arrows hit without warning and are not visible. That rider is, according to Dürer, the one to be most afraid of. In the middle of the 14th century, the plague came with the ships of Genoa, which arrived in Europe from the Crimea. In just a few years, the so-called Black Death killed a third of the European continent. After the first initial pandemic, caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, regularly returned to European cities, sowing panic and death. Salvatore Rosa, Human Fragility from 1656. And 200 years later, every city in Europe was affected by epidemics that killed from 10 to as much as 50% of the population. It is believed that in 1656, at least half of the inhabitants of Naples, more than 200,000 of them, died from the plague. Rosa therefore testifies to a first-rate death in her painting. The baby signs a contract with death, acknowledging all the limitations and misery of human existence. Death is a terrifying skeleton with huge wings, which further underlines all the darkness of the image. Although the Italian painter survived that plague in 1656, his son did not, like his brother and sister, or his 5 sisters. The child in the picture is Rosa's son Rosaldo, who obeyed death. Titian, Pieta from 1575. An older man prays for his son and himself to survive. This emotional confession was painted by Titian when Venice was destroyed by the plague. He portrays himself half naked as he kneels before Mary and the dead Christ. To make his message even more deadly, he also creates an image within the image. At the votive dedication to the saint, he and his son Oratio pray. Titian's canvas is an appeal for help, but he couldn't. Titian and Oratio died of the plague in 1576. Rembrandt, Portrait of Hendrika Stoffels from 1654. Hendrika Stoffels, one of the victims of the Black Plague pandemic that plagued Europe in the Middle Ages, was Rembrandt's partner. That is why Rembrandt revives it on canvas. Stoffels was first Rembrandt's housekeeper, and after the death of his wife, she became his partner in life and work. She had a daughter with him and raised his son, Titus. When Rembrandt went bankrupt, she began to take care of his affairs, and his portrait is a testimony to their love. How much he was struck by the loss of his beloved wife is clear if one looks at Rembrandt's later self-portraits. Van Honthorst, Saint Sebastian from 1623. The Roman soldier Sebastian, sentenced to death by arrows for his Christian beliefs, was a saint and protector against the plague. In Van Honthorst's native Utrecht was hit by the plague in 1620. Inspired by Caravaggio's work, he depicts that saint in the picture as an inspiring hero who has miraculously survived. Although the arrows deep in his body seem deadly, Sebastian, by God's grace, manages to heal. Caravaggio, 7 Acts of Mercy from 1607. All the pandemics that hit Europe brought with them something more disturbing. Its victims, that is the dead, could not be buried in a dignified manner. Giovanni Boccaccio also testified that when the Black Death hit Florence, the bodies of the dead were thrown into the streets. The later discovered pits for plague, full of corpses, only confirm that. Those unworthy mass graves were an inspiration to Caravaggio to paint people doing good deeds on the cruel streets of Naples. And the priest is there among them, holding a torch, while the man whose feet are sticking out from under the cover is taken out at night to be buried. Thanks to the masterpieces of these painters, today we have the opportunity to see how they presented that dark period, when Europe was affected by the plague pandemic that took millions of people to their deaths. If you liked the video, be sure to like it, support, subscribe to the channel, and write to us below in the comments of your opinion. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.